In the morning, she is an unnoticed radio host with a violent temper and a vengeful nature. In the afternoon, she becomes a disheveled parking attendant with a positive, optimistic attitude and a bit of shyness. En-ho, embodying the radio host persona, has been in a relationship with her boyfriend Hyun-mu for 8 years. Initially, they were inseparable, but eventually, they headed towards a breakup. Despite the split, they still work at the same place. Today, the news director asked Hyun-ho to host the 4 p.m. live broadcast. However, Hyun-ho has always been a morning radio host, working fixed hours from 5 a.m. to 2 p.m., a schedule that hasn't changed in 3 years. Despite her explanations, even citing that her presence has led to the highest ratings, the director insisted on the change, holding on to outdated ideas. The 4 p.m. slot is meant for a male and female co-host, not 2 males. As the argument escalated, Hyun-ho's ex-boyfriend Hyun-mu stepped forward, offering to take over the 4 p.m. live broadcast. Seeing Hyun-mu speak, the director immediately changed his tone, complaining about how tiring the afternoon show is and how it sometimes requires getting hands dirty on site to entertain the audience. Hearing this, Hyun-ho became upset, questioning why she should do the dirty work if Hyun-mu could not. Hyun-mu insisted on doing the afternoon broadcast, leaving no room for the director to argue. Meanwhile, Hyun-ho was still pondering over Hyun-mu referring to her as that person, which caused the director to explode in anger. Hyun-ho was tasked with convincing Hyun-mu to give up his spot, and she had to appear on the show before him. She believed Hyun-mu still loved her. Otherwise, why would he offer to stand in? Shocked by her confidence, Hyun-mu wondered if she had been drinking. In reality, he stepped up to avoid awkwardness. Hyun-mu didn't understand why Hyun-ho had only ever hosted morning shows. She explained that she had put a lot of effort into protecting her show and wouldn't switch easily. Upon hearing this, Hyun-mu came up with a plan to move the 4 p.m. live broadcast to the morning. Hyun-ho thought he was crazy. Even though Hyun-ho was a popular figure in the broadcasting department and the next likely anchor for the 9 p.m. news, he didn't have the authority to change showtimes. It seemed like a dream. Yet the time change happened, and to Hyun-ho's surprise, Hyun-mu became her co-host. The director explained that there wasn't enough time to prepare the originally scheduled host, so Hyun-mu stepped in. The more Hyun-ho thought about it, the angrier she got. She ended up confiding in Moon-ji-on, who had a crush on her. Despite Hyun-ho being 37, Moon-ji-on didn't care. She knew about his feelings, but never gave him a chance. Reflecting on Hyun-ho's recent behavior, Hyun-ho decided to seek revenge. She had read online that to get revenge on an ex, she needed to become more beautiful. So the next day, Hyun-ho showed up with her hair styled in big waves. Hyun-ho appeared before everyone and deliberately stepped out of the camera frame during the live broadcast. The director offstage was unsure who to film and had to play a recorded video instead. At the end of the show, the lines that Hyun-ho was supposed to say were taken by Hyun-ho. Angered, Hyun-ho stomped on him with her high heels and innocently asked if it hurt. Hyun-ho thought Hyun-ho stole her lines because she walked off camera, but he told her she was out of touch with reality. After 14 years, he claimed she had lost her professional awareness. Hyun-ho didn't understand what he meant until the staff told her her skirt had come undone. If Hyun-ho hadn't taken over, it could have led to an on-air mishap. Hyun-ho felt foolish and shared the incident with Moon-ji-on. Moon-ji-on bluntly said Hyun-ho must still like Hyun-ho. Perhaps to prove she didn't, Hyun-ho asked Moon-ji-on to date her and scheduled it for the weekend. Hyun-ho, who overheard, appeared indifferent but secretly recommended Hyun-ho for a weekend program filming marine debris out of town. This occupied her weekend, so Hyun-ho suggested rescheduling her date with Moon-ji-on to the following week. But Moon-ji-on was busy then, so he decided to join her on the shoot instead. A colleague relayed to Hyun-ho that Hyun-ho was taking Moon-ji-on on the trip. Hyun-ho asked a female colleague if they could finish filming that day, not wanting Hyun-ho and Moon-ji-on to share a room overnight. During the shoot, the rough seas caused frequent accidents. Just as Hyun-ho steadied herself, a wave knocked her down, causing Moon-ji-on to burst into laughter on the shore. Moon-ji-on's behavior was not out of disinterest in Hyun-ho. He simply believed there was no need to pretend to be overly affectionate. That evening, Moon-ji-on drove her home. As they parted, he asked if there would be another date. Ju Yun-ho didn't answer, but instead brought up her dislike for Jung Hyun-ho. She hated him because when they were together, she had proposed marriage, but Jung Hyun-ho had outright rejected the idea. Despite her efforts, she couldn't change his mind. Moon Ji-yeon scratched his head and told Ju Yun-ho to make a choice. If she said she wasn't interested, he would stop pursuing her. But if she stayed silent and did nothing, he would try even harder to win her over. Unsure of what to say, Ju Yun-ho was kissed by Moon Ji-yeon. The scene shifts to Ju Hyeri, Ju Yun-ho's disheveled second personality, working in a parking lot. Ju Hyeri remembered everything that happened to Ju Yun-ho, but thought it was all a dream. For this reason, she was seeing a psychologist. Ju Hyeri secretly admired another company's news anchor, Kang Ju-yeon, and often watched him from a distance when he parked his car. However, her shy nature kept her from approaching him, opting instead to hide her presence. Ju Hyeri's demeanor was a stark contrast to Ju Yun-ho's, speaking slowly and cautiously. Baek Hye-yeon, who worked at the same news company as Kang Ju-yeon, also had a crush on him, but Kang showed no interest in her. Ju Hyeri was always disheveled, which puzzled her colleagues. Her explanation was that she was too beautiful. She feared that if Kang Ju-yeon saw her face, he would fall in love instantly. On this day, Kang Ju-yeon's company was visited by unwelcome guests led by an older woman who believed Kang Ju-yeon's news report had caused their onions to go unsold. As a result, she and her group caused a disturbance. Just then, Kang Ju-yeon appeared, and the woman, demanding an explanation, picked up a weapon. While being harassed by the woman, Kang Ju-yeon was spotted by Ju Hyeri. Without hesitation, Ju Hyeri grabbed him and they ran, hiding in a corner until security escorted the woman away. Once safe, Kang Ju-yeon explained the incident, but his words deeply moved Ju Hyeri, compelling her to kiss him before walking away like a penguin, leaving a stunned Kang Ju-yeon behind. As Ju Hyeri arrived home on her bike, she was greeted by the voice of Jung Hyun-ho, who had just realized that his girlfriend of 8 years had a peculiar second personality, which made her walk like a monkey. Initially, Jung Hyun-ho thought this was a new tactic by Ju Yun-ho to avoid him, not realizing it was her second personality at play. Ju Hyeri's second personality, named after Ju Yun-ho's sister, originated from their close childhood bond. Whenever Ju Hyeri was hurt, Ju Yun-ho would cry incessantly. An accident one day led to the loss of Ju Hyeri, and following a breakup with Jung Hyun-ho, Ju Yun-ho developed a second personality. Ju Hyeri possesses all of Ju Yun-ho's memories, but perceives them as vivid dreams. Now, seeing her ex-boyfriend from her dreams in reality, Ju Hyeri sought her psychologist again. However, the psychologist explained that Ju Yun-ho and Ju Hyeri are in fact the same person. The doctor explained her diagnosis of dissociative identity disorder, but Ju Hyeri still couldn't believe it, insisting she just had amnesia. Her personality, Ju Hyeri, disappears every day at 4 a.m., replaced by Ju Yun-ho. Ju Yun-ho starts work at 5 a.m., finishes at 2 p.m., and after sleeping for an hour until 4 p.m., Ju Hyeri awakens. She then heads to her job as a car park attendant. Ju Hyeri has a crush on Kang Ju-yeon, a news anchor at the neighboring company, and often reserves parking spots for him. Today, she was exceptionally happy because she had kissed Kang Ju-yeon the night before. She boasted to her colleagues about her actions and even folded a pentagon star for Kang Ju-yeon. Confused by the unexpected kiss from a stranger, Kang Ju-yeon spent the day looking for Ju Hyeri, who kept hiding from him. Finally, in the evening, he confronted her at the office entrance while she was making a delivery. Kang Ju-yeon asked her coldly why she kissed him the previous night. As they spoke, Ju Hyeri started crying, which unexpectedly shook Kang Ju-yeon. Ju Hyeri had not anticipated such a harsh reaction. She thought he would be friendly, and the contrast overwhelmed her, bringing her to tears. Ju Hyeri cried all the way home, repeatedly saying she had been unreasonable. She also wrote about Kang Ju-yeon's angry reaction in her diary, a habit she maintained. At 4 a.m., the alarm rang, waking her first personality, Ju Yun-ho. After waking up and washing her face, she noticed some swelling but didn't know why. The day passed quickly, and it was time for Ju Hyeri's personality to emerge. She couldn't hold back and gave Kang Ju-yeon 1,000 folded stars. Inside was a note with Ju Hyeri's confession. Since then, Ju Hyeri often appeared around Kang Ju-yeon unintentionally, but sometimes she would hide out of shyness. Over time, Kang Ju-yeon became used to her presence, Tonight he sought her out to apologize, feeling he had been too harsh, causing her to cry. Now Kang Ju-yeon was unsure about his feelings for Ju Hyeri, which felt strange to him. Seeing him like this, Ju Hyeri repeated her confession. As both were about to leave, they stopped. Kang Ju-yeon seemed lost in thought, while Ju Hyeri tapped her fingers on a bicycle handle. Then they approached each other. Ju Hyeri expressed a desire to know him better after the kiss, and he was curious about her. Unexpectedly, despite just meeting, Kang Ju-yeon took her to his home. There, Ju Hyeri learned he had an older brother who had passed away, and his mother, who mistook him for his brother, suffered from mental instability. Ju En-hao was 37 years old, but Ju Hyeri introduced herself to Kang Ju-yeon as 28 years old and mentioned that her parents seemed to have died. She has no siblings, but now she has you. A woman wakes up terrified to find herself in a strange man's house. The dominant personality is Ju En-hao, completely overshadowing the second personality. Ju Hyeri doesn't dwell on last night's memories here. Ju En-hao cautiously picks up her clothes and prepares to leave. At the door, she sees Kang Ju-yeon's work badge. She runs to the company and starts looking up information about Kang Ju-yeon online, trying to recall what happened last night. A colleague approaches, puzzled by Ju En-ho's unusual outfit today, as he remembers her never dressing like this. Knowing this male colleague has many friends at Kang Ju-yeon's company, she asks him to inquire about Kang Ju-yeon. Meanwhile, the company needs someone to secretly investigate a marine program. A female colleague who trusts only Jung Hyun-o's reporting wants him to take on the task. However, Jung Hyun-o passes the opportunity to Ju En-ho. While Ju En-ho is preoccupied with the events of last night, another female colleague and a co-worker approach her, trying to persuade her to decline the assignment. But hearing about a 10-minute on-camera opportunity, Ju En-ho immediately agrees to go. Ju En-ho's task is to secretly film in a cold storage, capturing them loading mackerel into domestic boxes and disposing of any traces. She thought she would be on camera, only to find out she can only record audio. Before leaving, her female colleague instructs her to call if anything happens. At the site, Ju En-ho is horrified to discover a dead body and hears strangers' voices outside. She quickly hides in a corner but misses the best chance to escape. Ju En-ho ends up locked in the cold storage. She repeatedly called her female colleague for help, but her colleague, having drunk too much, didn't notice the phone. Ju En-ho tried texting her, but no one replied after a long wait. Her body temperature kept dropping. Ju En-ho wanted to call the police, but her female colleague had specifically instructed her to keep the matter confidential. Having worked for 14 years, Ju En-ho's only ambition was to make a name for herself. Fearing she might lose her job if she called the police, she dismissed the idea. Then, she suddenly thought of Jung Hyun-o and considered asking for help. She remembered Jung Hyun-o once saying one must learn to be independent. However, she was so frightened that she broke down in tears. Her male colleague arrived just in time, saving Ju En-ho from the ordeal. Ju En-ho pretended to be calm, acting as if nothing had happened. Unbeknownst to her, the text message she sent for help had already been seen by Jung Hyun-o, who was the one who found her. 37-year-old Ju En-ho is facing a career low. Her boss criticizes her for being older and brings a young, attractive woman to mock Ju En-ho, hinting she's just an old-timer who should have advanced but remains a regular broadcaster. Despite her efforts, Ju En-ho feels invisible. Previously, she could depend on her ex-boyfriend Jung Hyun-o, but now she's on her own. Her boss accuses her of baseless things and humiliates her when she tries to defend herself. He belittles her as the only female hire of her batch, expected to be either young or beautiful, yet she lacks qualifications and skills. Thankfully, Jung Hyun-o interrupts, causing the boss to back down. In the department, Jung Hyun-o is a key figure, and in his presence the boss acts submissively. Shin Jin-ye, favored by the boss, relentlessly criticizes Ju En-ho for her supposedly improper conduct at events, even calling a meeting to condemn her. Ju En-ho has only been on location twice, yet she's publicly ridiculed, with male colleagues joking she looks like she's on a comedy show. Interestingly, Jung Hyun-o always shows up when Ju En-ho is targeted. Shin Jin-ye claims Ju En-ho's actions have hurt everyone involved and demands an apology, positioning herself on a moral high ground. It was as if she would become the industry's villain. Ju Hyun-ho did not make excuses or have the strength to refute. She simply stood up and apologized to everyone. "I'm sorry for harming anchor Shinjinya's dreams. I just wanted to do my job well, but I still ended up embarrassing someone." The word embarrassing was meant for Jung Hyun-ho. The previous night, when Jung Hyun-ho rescued Ju Hyun-ho from a truck, he told her that dating her was embarrassing and hoped she could become excellent even without him. At 37, Ju Hyun-ho's life was full of hardships. Fortunately, she had a second persona, Ju Hyeri. Compared to Ju Hyun-ho, Ju Hyeri's life seemed just to be seeing the first light of dawn. Since staying a night at Kang Ju-yeon's place, he always remembered her. A day without seeing her felt like something was missing in his life. He approached Ju Hyeri and couldn't help but confess his feelings, although subtly, but Ju Hyeri understood. After parting with Kang Ju-yeon and returning to her workstation, a colleague accidentally saw her. Because of the distance, the colleague questioned Ju Hyun-ho the next day, even asking if the person was her sister. Everyone at the company knew her sister had died, so when her sister was mentioned, Ju Hyun-ho's eyes filled with a murderous look as her memories dragged her back. One day, Ju Hyun-ho's sister, Ju Hyeri, suddenly disappeared and was later declared dead by the police. Unable to bear the shock, Ju Hyun-ho spent her days poring over her sister's belongings. In one diary, she discovered Ju Hyeri's wish, revealing her identity as a second persona and her encounter with love. The dominant personality hoped to relinquish the body, as the second personality was happier. Kang Ju-yeon and Jung Hyun-ho met the dominant personality, Ju Hyun-ho, and called her by different names. Panicked, Ju Hyun-ho ran to the restroom, where memories of Ju Hyeri emerged like shattered pieces. Confused, she accidentally broke a mirror and fainted in the restroom. When she woke up, she was in Kang Ju-yeon's house. Although Kang Ju-yeon wanted to know what had happened, Ju Hyeri was unclear, since it was Ju Hyun-ho who had been conscious before the blackout. Kang Ju-yeon did not press further, and their relationship quickly grew warmer. Ju Hyeri, aware of Ju Hyun-ho's existence and her lesser happiness, wrote her a letter. One day, Kang Ju-yeon and Baek Hye-yeon attended a dinner hosted by their boss, where the boss behaved inappropriately. Kang Ju-yeon witnessed this and spoke up, earning the boss's displeasure. He later shared the incident with Ju Hyeri, who, upon collecting parking fees from the boss, deliberately provoked him into an extreme action, then reported him for sexual harassment. As a company leader concerned with his reputation and not wanting to be seen as a criminal, he pleaded on his knees for Ju Hyeri's forgiveness. Baek Hye-yeon, initially seeing Ju Hyeri as a rival, unknowingly became her friend. Baek Hye-yeon invited Ju Hyeri to a meal, and Kang Ju-yeon soon joined them. However, not long after, he received a call from his mother. Initially planning to visit her alone, Kang Ju-yeon decided to bring Ju Hyeri along. Ever since the death of Kang Ju-yeon's older brother, his mother had been mentally unsettled. Kang Ju-yeon always treated Ju Hyeri like a brother. Ju Hyeri had heard about this and promised to speak to his mother. She approached and comforted her. Kang Ju-yeon's mother gave Ju Hyeri a ring, marking her true acceptance into Kang Ju-yeon's heart. Watching Ju Hyeri stargaze, Kang Ju-yeon couldn't resist holding her hand. The next day, Ju Hyun-ho woke up to find a woven ring on her finger and read Ju Hyeri's diary entries about it. She casually tossed the ring aside. Ju Hyun-ho attended a team-building event and passed the park where her sister Ju Hyeri had once disappeared, triggering forgotten memories. Overwhelmed, she ran into the park alone at night. Ju Hyeri was reluctant to join a graduation trip, citing her disinterest in socializing, which she blamed for her lack of friends. Despite her protests, she went anyway. Ju Hyun-ho blamed herself for her sister's disappearance, which led to her developing a second personality. The following day, Ju Hyun-ho and Jung Hyun-ho hosted a show normally. When Ju Hyun-ho began to read a news segment about sisters, memories of Ju Hyeri surfaced again. She began to lose control of her body and nearly choked in the studio. But Jung Hyun-ho comforted and cared for her, pulling her back from the brink. Despite feeling unwell, Ju Hyun-ho finished the show. Seeing her nearly exhausted, Jung Hyun-ho took her hand and led her into an elevator. Inside, En-ho asked Hyun-mu to let go and leave. Suddenly, a group entered the elevator, and Hyun-mu instinctively shielded En-ho to hide her distress from others. En-ho remembered the happiness mentioned in Hyeri's letter. She felt a comforting sense of security throughout her body as the elevator doors opened. She did not let go. When the doors closed again, Hyun-ho unexpectedly kissed her, and En-ho did not resist. Since the kiss, Hyeri never appeared again. Usually, En-ho would nap in the afternoon, and Hyeri would wake up. Now, En-ho slept straight through to the next morning. Hyun-ho started acting like a boyfriend, taking care of En-ho's daily needs without any resistance from her. She gradually accepted him. En-ho would cook and tidy the house, and they shopped together like a normal couple. Due to her recent panic attacks, En-ho suggested a hospital visit. En-ho knew a regular hospital, but just as they arrived, En-ho received a call. This left En-ho to meet the psychologist alone. Initially, the doctor thought she was Hyeri, until En-ho clarified she was the main personality. The doctor realized the misunderstanding and began asking about Hyeri. En-ho then slowly shared their story. Hyeri and En-ho grew up together at their grandmother's house after their parents died. One day, Hyeri went missing after a meal with classmates. Her disappearance was too much for their grandmother, who passed away soon after. Since then, En-ho had been reading Hyeri's diary, discovering her likes and following her wishes by working in a parking lot. Initially, En-ho was just imitating Hyeri, but eventually, she completely became Hyeri. After learning the full story, the doctor diagnosed En-ho with dissociative identity disorder. The doctor then showed her a video from Hyeri's previous hospital visits. It was En-ho's first time seeing Hyeri's personality, and she couldn't believe it. She never thought her alternate personality would be like this. She didn't tell En-ho about her condition, and their life returned to normal. Meanwhile, Kang Joo-yeon hadn't seen Hyeri for several days and asked her colleagues about her. Although they didn't know where she was, one colleague found a cell phone in the restroom that En-ho had lost after fainting. They didn't know whose it was and planned to ask Hyeri when she returned, but she hadn't shown up for days, and her home address was unknown. Kang Joo-yeon said he knew where Hyeri lived and took the phone. After work, Kang Joo-yeon met the man he had spoken to previously, who mentioned talking to En-ho's sister. This led Kang Joo-yeon to search for information about En-ho. When he traveled to Seoul and arrived at En-ho's building, he witnessed a loving moment between her and En-ho. He couldn't understand who En-ho really was, whether she looked exactly like Hyeri or was playing a double game. En-ho and En-ho's relationship was warming up quickly. En-ho thought these days would continue, but unexpectedly, right after making plans to enjoy a meal together, En-ho received a call and abruptly said goodbye. This goodbye pulled En-ho back to the day they broke up. En-ho said the word that despite En-ho's pleas not to break up, he was resolute. The memories woke En-ho fully. She realized En-ho would never marry her. It was all an illusion. Suddenly, En-ho returned, knocked on the door, and suggested they reconcile. However, En-ho did not agree and rejected him, just as he had once rejected her. En-ho's family was large, with several elderly members. To others, living in his home seemed like hell. No one could stand the elders. This was why En-ho did not marry. His mother left when he was young, and he lived with his gambling-addicted father, who had accrued a lot of debt. Despite many hardships, En-ho had two friends who grew up with him. He dreamed of becoming a radio host and worked towards this goal. He studied in a noisy environment and worked part-time at a restaurant to support his family. One day, a fire broke out at home, and his father died. The father's debts, amounting to over 100 million won, had to be repaid by En-ho, who was still a minor. He promised to repay the debt once he turned 18. Touched by En-ho's sense of responsibility, the old woman who was owed the money offered him to live with her. She would cover his tuition and living expenses with the condition that he would take care of her and the other 4 elderly women in their old age. The 5 of them lived together, childless and with nothing but money. En-ho agreed to the old woman's idea and became a part of their family. Soon after, the fathers of his two friends ran away, leaving their siblings behind. Hyun-mu suggested to the old woman that they should stay. Gradually, the three fully integrated into the old woman's family, becoming familiar from the initial strangeness. The old woman's wish was for Hyun-mu to marry soon, but he was reluctant to bring a partner into such an environment. Hyun-mu believed he should be the sole caretaker of the elderly women, as he was the only one who could endure living there. To others, it was hell. So, when he received a call about one of the old women being hospitalized, he left after saying goodbye, but later regretted it, realizing he still loved Ju Yun-ho. Unfortunately, Ju Yun-ho was no longer the same person and did not give him another chance. What he once took for granted and gave up easily, he now regretted. Perhaps in an attempt to win back Ju Yun-ho, Jung Hyun-oh's radio station boss approached him to step down from the popular evening program. If he disagreed, they would cancel Ju Yun-ho's show. To preserve Ju Yun-ho's position, he chose to resign. When Ju Yun-ho learned of this, she confronted Jung Hyun-oh, thinking he acted out of guilt or pity. Ju Yun-ho had likely let go of her feelings for Jung Hyun-oh completely. Thus, she turned to Kang Ju-yeon, adopting the persona of Ju Hyeri to meet him.
안녕하세요, 강주현 씨.
Afterward, the two sat aside and chatted. During the conversation, Kang Ju-yeon asked Ju Yun-ho who he had met that night. Ju Yun-ho explained it was his sister. However, when Kang Ju-yeon questioned why Ju Hyeri had previously claimed to be an only child, a guilty Ju Yun-ho quickly changed the subject. Soon after, at Baek Hye-yeon's strong invitation, Ju Yun-ho and Kang Ju-yeon played a doubles dodgeball game. During the game, Kang Ju-yeon fiercely protected Ju Yun-ho. Just after their win, Ju Yun-ho realized her hand was cut by a nail. After work, Kang Ju-yeon took Ju Yun-ho for a simple stitch-up at the hospital and returned her phone. Seeing how evasive Ju Yun-ho was all day, even unable to answer some questions, Kang Ju-yeon guessed something was amiss. The next day, Jung Hyun-oh, having resigned from the 9 p.m. slot, participated in a joint event by the three major TV stations, where he met the male lead officially. Just as everyone was ready, Ju Yun-ho arrived late. Kang Ju-yeon's gaze from the stage followed him as if trying to see through him. After the show, Kang Ju-yeon warmly greeted Ju Yun-ho, recalling Ju Hyeri had said she was her sister. Unexpectedly, during their handshake, the stitched hand revealed her identity. That day, Kang Ju-yeon intentionally called out Ju Hyeri's name behind Ju Yun-ho, who turned around unconsciously. They then went to a cafe where Ju Yun-ho apologetically explained to Kang Ju-yeon that Ju Hyeri was her alter ego and she couldn't remember their past relationship. Kang Ju-yeon refused the apology, pleading only for her Ju Hyeri back. Later, Ju Yun-ho had no time to think about Ju Hyeri and Kang Ju-yeon because all her thoughts were occupied by Jung Hyun-oh, who had given up his lifelong dream of the 9 p.m. slot for her. Ju Yun-ho began recalling their challenging relationship days when Jung Hyun-oh was just a little-known broadcaster, eagerly taking on unappealing tasks just to someday make his mother proud. Lost in these memories, Ju Yun-ho didn't realize her mistake. She actually took the initiative to call Jung Hyun-oh, seemingly with something important to say. Unexpectedly, it was then that Ju Yun-ho heard about Jung Hyun-oh's upcoming marriage. Upon learning that Jung Hyun-oh was about to marry another woman, Ju Yun-ho became visibly upset. She not only talked to herself on a live mic during a news broadcast, but also detailed her rejection and breakup with Jung Hyun-oh in a written apology demanded by her superiors. This move infuriated the TV station's president. As internet speeds increased, the video of her muttering went viral, earning more likes. Subsequently, she was benched by the director. An angry Ju Yun-ho confronted Jung Hyun-oh, accusing him of not planning to marry, and stormed off furiously. Watching her leave in anger, Jung Hyun-oh was also in a difficult position. It turned out that the aunt who raised him had recently been diagnosed with breast cancer. This deeply saddened her close group of old friends. His aunt, wanting to pass with dignity, chose not to undergo treatment, which Jung Hyun-oh strongly opposed. Taking advantage of the situation, she demanded he get married. Jung Hyun-oh had previously broken up with Ju Yun-ho, feeling his family situation was too complicated for her to be involved in. Now he was forced to marry another girl living under the same roof, which made him feel like fate was playing tricks on him. Meanwhile, Kang Ju-yeon was eagerly hoping to see Ju Hyeri again, but reality was always harsh. One day, he impulsively asked Baek Hye-yeon out for noodles. During the meal, Baek Hye-yeon excitedly thought her chance had come, but Kang Ju-yeon's thoughts were filled only with Ju Hyeri, blaming himself. From the diary entries, it was clear that Ju Hyeri's alter ego had returned. Unhappy, Ju Yoon-ho took a long leave after learning her ex-boyfriend, who vowed never to marry, was rumored to be getting married. Her radio show was completely replaced. However, it was just a rumor. Jung Hyun-ho still refused to marry and was unaware of Ju Yoon-ho's whereabouts, seeming lost. Meanwhile, Kang Ju-yeon, unaware of Ju Yoon-ho's other personality, had been inquiring in the parking lot for a month. He was waiting for the return of Ju Hyeri's personality, watching videos of Ju Yoon-ho at home and smiling foolishly, continuously calling the phone she left at home. One evening, unsure whether he was looking at Ju Hyeri or Ju Yoon-ho, he decided he could no longer wait. Kang Ju-yeon approached Jung Hyun-ho, who wanted to understand his relationship with Ju Yoon-ho. Kang Ju-yeon explained that he was dating Ju Yoon-ho's other personality, Ju Hyeri. Confused, Jung Hyun-ho was told about dissociative identity disorder, but was more concerned about whether Kang Ju-yeon was dating Ju Yoon-ho or her sister, initially misunderstanding the situation as dating a sibling. Realizing it was still Ju Yoon-ho, Jung Hyun-ho recalled strange incidents involving her but remained focused on the romantic involvement. Kang Ju-yeon reiterated he was dating Ju Hyeri's personality, wishing it were Ju Yoon-ho so he wouldn't have to wait for Ju Hyeri's emergence. When he went to find Ju Yoon-ho, he discovered she had disappeared, leading him here. Jung Hyun-ho, shocked, informed him that Ju Yoon-ho had taken leave a month ago and had not returned, unable to contact her. Kang Ju-yeon now worried for her, recognizing that her disappearance indicated a worsening of her condition. He argued that the focus should not be on whether Ju Yoon-ho was dating him, but on her well-being. Rather than focusing on other things, we should be concerned about her health, he said, delivering a wake-up call to Jung Hyun-ho. He remembered that Ju Eun-ho had previously mentioned her illness, but he had not paid attention. Jung Hyun-ho then went to the hospital where Ju Yoon-ho had previously been treated. However, the doctors would not provide him with information about Ju Yoon-ho's condition, although they were willing to discuss his situation. Upon learning that his girlfriend had multiple personalities, he realized that he had been more concerned about her relationships with others than her illness. Jung Hyun-ho really didn't want to break up with Ju Yoon-ho. He had done so out of desperation. Now he suspected that her dissociative identity disorder might be because of him. The doctor explained that such conditions are greatly linked to past psychological traumas or stressful events. To help her heal, he needed to communicate with her and provide support and encouragement. After understanding this, Jung Hyun-ho went looking for Ju Yoon-ho, but she wasn't at home. He then went to the workplace of another of her personalities. He asked Ju Hyeri's colleagues when Ju Yoon-ho had worked there, and learned it was 4 years ago, right after they had broken up over his refusal to marry, which had been traumatizing for her. Upon realizing the truth, Jung Hyun-ho returned home and wept bitterly, finally understanding how much harm he had caused. Fortunately, fate gave him another chance when he received a call from the police while at work. At the same time, Kang Ju-yeon was reaching his breaking point. Jung Hyun-ho arrived at the police station where the officers told him she had been living alone in an old villa, looking quite pitiful. They speculated she might have been presumed dead. Jung Hyun-ho was asked to sign some documents, but he froze when he saw her in the corner. Was it Ju Yoon-ho or Ju Hyeri? He stared at her in disbelief. After being missing for a month, she had been brought back by her ex-boyfriend. However, Ju Eun-ho did not say a word to Jung Hyun-ho. Jung Hyun-ho was unsure whether she was Ju Eun-ho or Ju Hyeri because she did not speak. He referred to her as Ju Hyeri. After he left, Ju Yoon-ho quietly called out Jung Hyun-ho's name. Meanwhile, Kang Ju-yeon, who had been missing Ju Hyeri, couldn't resist calling again. He had been calling for a month without giving up. That day, he finally got through, and Jung Hyun-ho answered. Kang Ju-yeon was puzzled why Ju Yoon-ho's phone was with him. Jung Hyun-ho did not respond, which made Kang Ju-yeon anxious. However, he eventually told him that Ju Yoon-ho was healthy and hung up. When Jung Hyun-ho returned to the room, Ju Eun-ho had already fallen asleep. Kang Ju-yeon got the news and rushed over, but Jung Hyun-ho refused to let him see her, saying she was asleep. After a night passed, Kang Ju-yeon was still waiting downstairs in the morning. Young Hyun-mu prevented him from contacting Ju Yoon-ho. Kang Ju-yeon didn't care who it was. As long as Ju Yoon-ho was alive and healthy, he didn't mind if she didn't love him. He could accompany her to her forest. Kang Ju-yeon was willing to give up everything for her. Moved by his genuine affection, Ju Yoon-ho walked over and hugged him in front of Young Hyun-mu. At that moment, Young Hyun-mu was stunned. After the hug, Ju Yoon-ho asked Jung Hyun-mu to leave so she could talk to Kang Ju-yeon alone. Jung Hyun-mu was dazed at work. Then, Kang Ju-yeon asked how Ju Hyeri was doing, and if she was hurt. Ju Yoon-ho told him she was herself, but wanted to be Ju Hyeri to understand why she was happy. She revealed that a month before her disappearance, she had gone alone to the mountain where her sister had disappeared, wanting to lose herself in the same place. There, she found an abandoned house. Ju Eun-ho decided to become Ju Hyeri here, but initially she was not successful. As time passed, she eventually awakened a second personality. The Ju Hyeri personality was carefree and always smiling. However, at night, she reverted to her original self. Frustrated by her failures, she scratched her arms and ran down the mountain in a fit of rage, where she was discovered and found by Young Hyun-mu. She knew she was lying to herself about never being happy. She had once been Young Hyun-mu's cherished little princess. One day at work, Young Hyun-mu was asked to stay in bed a bit longer, obediently crawling back under the covers with Ju Eun-ho. There was a birthday reminder for Ju Eun-ho marked by Jung Hyun-mu on the calendar. She told Kang Ju-yeon that she could no longer become Ju Hyeri. Kang Ju-yeon said he didn't care whether she was Ju Eun-ho or Ju Hyeri. Ju Eun-ho interrupted him, thanking him for his affection and for being by her side. Both teared up after speaking. Meanwhile, Young Hyun-mu recalled all the moments he had with Ju Eun-ho and their promise to always be together. In a moment of realization, he rushed out to win back Ju Eun-ho. Ju Eun-ho also realized that the Ju Hyeri personality might never return. She closed her dissociative diary, remembering a beautiful moment with Young Hyun-mu, and then her phone rang. She rushed out and saw Young Hyun-mu running towards her at the staircase. They stood where they had once broken up, looking at each other. The tears they shed were not of pain but of happiness. They embraced, reunited in their love.